All right. Thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, I'm Rune Christensen, co-founder of MakerDAO. And this early morning on day 2, I'm here to give you the short and brief insight on the biggest thing to happen in crypto in a long time, which is Maker Endgame. So, before we get started and dig really into it, let's just talk briefly about why are we all here, right? I mean, we're here because we believe that there's so much blockchain can do for the world to help real people, including fixing the financial system, which is going to massively improve lives all around the world. The problem is that it turns out not everyone is here for the same reason, right? I mean, over the last, for let's say quite a while in this space, we've seen that there's a lot of people who are just here to make a bunch of Ponzi's, make a bunch of scams, make some quick money, and actually don't really care about the real potential of the technology itself. And that has, that has reflected on the reputation of our industry. But the good news is that there have been projects actually building all along, and MakerDAO is among them, right? We have been consistently throughout even the past bull run, when everyone was busy getting rich and building stuff that didn't do anything, our focus has been on delivering real value through accomplishments like actually delivering on scalable real assets. And this has allowed us to actually end up with tremendous growth. So in a situation where everyone else in the space now, for the most part, is down bad, Maker is actually growing. We're moving up, we're moving forwards. And we're now, we've always been the oldest and the first DAO. Now we are definitely the largest. And what it means is basically this is a smart contract-based system that's run by people from all over the world collaborating to manage the world's largest decentralized stablecoin, the DAI stablecoin, which actually today has reached more than 5.2 billion DAI in circulation. In the past 2 months, it's grown by almost 1 billion. And this massive scale of the DAI stablecoin has resulted in more than $170 million in income per year for the DAO. So this is just the beginning. We're growing, but we want to grow even more, right? We want to take it to the next level, and we want to make sure that when this industry comes back, this time it'll be based on delivering real value, real growth, right? No more hype and pumping, but just focus on all of the real potential that exists with our technology. But to get there, we will have to implement the Maker Endgame. We'll have to rethink a lot of the core things that make Maker what it is, so that we can really fully realize this potential. First, we've got a relatively minor change that ultimately symbolizes this completely new era of the project. So we will be introducing a new brand. The goal here is just to take the existing brand and make an alternative that is more just generally appealing to regular people, that can bring in people, that can make it really easy for people to get started with a stablecoin, and also to help overlap the user base and the governance of the ecosystem by making it an entry point and an access point to the different forms of gamified participation, like yield farming, that we'll be introducing in Endgame. So the real challenge that we're really tackling here is the problem of governance scalability. So Maker's become so big and so successful that we've run into a scalability limit of just how big and how much real value can you have in a DAO before it becomes too overwhelming to try to control it all, right? Because there's so much economic value, there's so many features, and it's reached a point where it's quite overwhelming for regular people to try to participate in Maker governance. So where we want to go is into this new paradigm we call sub-DAOs, right? We want to have smaller, specialized communities that can focus on a particular product, a particular market bet, and also can self-organize, the unique communities with the required culture to do whatever they want to specialize in. And so the way we're going to get there is through the sub-DAO launch. So each of these sub-DAOs that are launching, which initially will be 4 in total, with more to come, will have their own token. And the tokens really represent all of this untapped value and potential that exists in Maker that the DAO will be taking and then distributing to end users through farming. And all it takes to get these tokens for free is that you have to upgrade your DAI to the new upgraded version, which is, by the way, entirely optional. But if you do that, then you can access these sub-DAO token farming opportunities. And then what's going to happen is the communities get to self-organize, right? Because whoever's farming a particular token ends up really defining what that sub-DAO becomes. So there's just so much opportunity for the broader crypto ecosystem to figure out all that's possible with all of the value and all the potential that Maker has already built, if we want to take it to the next level and specialize and start to experiment and grow. So one of the things that's really cool and unique about Maker sub-DAOs is that they are small, nimble, flexible, right? They can make decisions fast, but they also access this massive scale and the massive potential of Maker that's been built up in the ecosystem over the past 8 years, and that's just going to continue to grow as the sub-DAOs synergize with each other. They will access shared economic scale, the massive collateral portfolio of the DAI stablecoin, the user base, the trust and the track record that comes with the Maker brand, and also sharing governance infrastructure and even future AI tools that will all be able to synergize and sort of build on top of each other, despite the sub-DAOs being individually small and flexible entities. Now, the hardest thing of all in DAOs is dealing with the people. Things like budgets, onboarding, who to pick for a project. This kind of stuff is just incredibly hard if you're really just a bunch of people, winging it over the internet, essentially. And so what's incredibly powerful about sub-DAOs is they essentially get all of the hard stuff done for free for them, because from the moment they launch, they have complete access to the full-scale Maker contributor ecosystem, right? We've built this up over the past 8 years. We've got some of the top developers, marketers, right, contributors in the whole industry, and this will just continue to grow. So as a sub-DAO, you don't have to worry about all the complicated and hard parts, right? As a newly formed community, you can just focus on having fun, meaning it's really a matter of deciding what the sub-DAO wants to do, deciding where they want to make a bet, and then deciding how much they're willing to pay for getting that done. And then the ecosystem ensures that there already are, top-tier, high-quality contributors available to do that for the fair price that it takes to get whatever you want to get done. Again, it's hard to stress just how much of an unlock this is, because this is usually where most DAOs, they just sort of get in trouble already. Sub-DAOs will have this all fully ready from launch. Now, like I said earlier, the sub-DAOs are born through the creation of new tokens that are then distributed out through farming to the holders of upgraded DAI. And these upgraded DAI farmers that farm the sub-DAO tokens, they are the only holders of the Genesis distribution, right? So there's no insiders, there are no pre-allocation of sub-DAO tokens. They're only these farm tokens. So these communities are completely organic. It's a true fair launch of the sub-DAOs. But then, as soon as they launch, then the big question is, now that these new token holders have to decide the direction of the sub-DAO, right? And of course, we don't just want to launch a bunch of tokens and then dump people into a blank slate with absolutely no idea or no direction of where to go. Instead, for the initial 4 sub-DAOs, alongside the incubation of the sub-DAOs themselves, we've been incubating some very high-quality companies called the nested teams that are basically sort of set up as a very compelling starting point that the sub-DAO token holders can choose to onboard and choose to tap into. So let's go over the visions for the 4 initial sub-DAOs and how they're going to explore the different dimensions of what's possible in this new paradigm. So every single sub-DAO has to focus on community, has to really develop a compelling community, because a community and a culture and a brand, that is the foundation that makes a DAO able to function at all. Then there is technology. If you've got a functional community, you can set them up with some powerful DeFi tech. This is what we've been good at in Maker since the very early days. And once you get the tech in place, then the final stage is you can use the technology to reach out into the real world and interact with institutions and do real asset deals. And this is what we've seen. That's where the real economic scale, the real potential is with DeFi. So I'll just go through each of the sub-DAOs briefly, one by one. The first one is Sakura DAO. This is really our experiment with what's possible if you take a sub-DAO and you really just focus it on the social aspect of DAOs, right? Make something that's really, really easy, doesn't try to do too much with complicated DeFi. Instead, it focuses on just having sustainable income, sustainable economics, and uses that to develop content, things like gaming, just different ways that you can provide value to the community that is really less about the money, less about complicated finance, and more about having fun in a DAO and seeing what's possible with this paradigm. Then there's SparkDAO. This is the sub-DAO that is laser focused on cutting-edge DeFi innovation. So SparkDAO already has a live product today. In fact, Spark Protocol is one of the top 25 DeFi projects in the world by TVL, with something like almost 500 TVL today, and it just continues to grow, right? And SparkDAO is going to be in the position to just take this kind of innovation, this kind of growth, and decide what other innovations they want to build, right? Basically, the goal is to have SparkDAO to always be at the absolute forefront of all DeFi innovation that's about building real products that people actually want to use. And then we get to the real asset sub-DAOs. So this is when things start to get really interesting, but also less defined from our end. The first real asset sub-DAO has the code name Quant, right? So the brand, the name, this is all placeholder for now. And what Quant is focusing on is this idea of the intersection of what's possible with tech and what's possible with finance, all right? So high scale, high speed, high frequency, tokenized trading, real asset allocation, market making, all of these things. It's also experimenting with what happens if you take a sub-DAO and you leave it as a totally blank slate from a branding perspective, right? So there's going to be no regional focus, no particular identity developed at all. We'll wait and see what happens when people farm this token and then decide what to do after they've farmed it. One unique value proposition of the Quant sub-DAO is that it is born inheriting a very valuable asset from Maker Core, which is the Clydesdale real asset structure. So this is actually the biggest real asset structure in the world. It's deployed more than $1 billion into T-bills already. And most importantly, it's a very robust and scalable legal structure that can serve as a foundation for all the future real asset projects that Quant wants to do, so they can really hit the ground running. Then there is the Qual real asset sub-DAO. Again, this is total placeholder. It will change, of course. And so what Qual is all about is really the deep end of highly specialized finance, right? So not just things like scalable public credit, but actually also getting into private credit, which means doing more complex, smaller scale deals that can potentially yield much, much better returns if you make the right choices and you have the right specialized knowledge to do it. And the last step for Qual is even to focus on tokenizing private credit, which is really the holy grail of what's possible with blockchain and how it can transform finance. So because Qual is going to be focusing on private credit in particular, it makes sense that it also has this regional focus on the part of the world where most of the high quality economic growth is going to be happen in the foreseeable future. So the idea is that a lot of what Qual will be doing will be happening right here in Singapore, in Southeast Asia, right, the home of growth currently. Our bet is that that's where, where the growth is, that's where the really, really good private credit deals are also going to be. And so this really showcases what's possible with sub-DAOs and with the token model, right? Because we want to encourage people from the local region to then collaborate and farm this specific sub-DAO so that they can be on the ground and they can help the sub-DAO figure out where are the real opportunities, right? Because you can't sit halfway across the world and think you're going to be making good deals in a place if you don't understand the local environment. But tokens and sub-DAOs actually make this possible, right? In a way that's a lot more seamless than what's been possible in the past. And to further underscore this, we want to also even develop this brand and develop the brand strategy, the design locally as well, right? So it is as compelling as possible and really is able to tap into this benefit to its maximum potential. And so Qual will also be born with an arranged structure, the one called Andromeda, which is our second largest real-world asset structure in Maker that has deployed almost $1 billion into real-world assets already and is incredibly robust and ready to scale further into whatever Qual wants to do. All sub-DAOs are meant to be really easy and fun to participate in, and a key driver of this is going to be staking, right? So staking helps, makes it possible for having sort of two segments of users and governance and community participants, right? So if you just want to buy the token and have fun, you can totally do that, and you don't have to feel pressure to engage in complicated governance if that's not what you want. On the other hand, stakers can then choose to be more deeply involved and actually be the people that make the decisions and drive the sub-DAOs forward. So this way, there's something for everyone, which is really the goal, right? Accessibility and inclusion. One of the things we learned over the past 8 years in Maker is that DAOs simply don't work if they're only about the money. There needs to be something more compelling, something deeper that ties the community together. And this is why we developed what we call the purpose system. Essentially, what this means is that every single sub-DAO and Maker as a whole has to commit to funding public goods, basically doing something that's more than just trying to make money. It turns out that if you do this, you attract better people to the DAO, you keep cohesion and alignment in the DAO, and ultimately actually allows it to generate a lot more value. So all that's remaining is getting involved. Like I said, this is going to be the biggest thing to happen in crypto in a very long time. And finally, it's going to be real. It's not just going to be smoke and mirrors, right? We've proven that already with what we've achieved so far in Maker. And with these tools and the possibilities of Endgame, we're going to take it to the next level. And you should all get involved. So what you can do today is you can already now use SDAI, which gives a really great yield on a stablecoin. And you can join our Discords, you can join the Maker Forum to get more into the sub-DAOs. Then early next year, we'll launch the new brand and the new tokens so you can upgrade your DAI to be ready for farming. And then finally, around Q2, whenever it's ready, hopefully Q2, the sub-DAOs will launch. And like I said, this is going to be the biggest thing to happen to this space in a very long time. So when they launch, if you want to get in at the ground level, you need to figure out what sub-DAO to farm, right? What's the right community for you? What's the right specialization for you, right? Where can you provide value? And then in return, benefit from the value of the token and the value of community increasing. Thanks everyone for listening, and here are some QR codes for the Discords.